On Golf Addicts, DB here to break down some head-to-head betting lines for the RBC Heritage 2022 at Harbour Town in Hilton Head. It's the week after Masters. We're slightly recovered a little bit more from our hangover at Augusta. But let's get into it, all right? And the first name I want to look at is Adam Hadwin, a pretty popular name, I think, this week, especially in the DFS streets. What I'm going to do here is take a look at a few key lines, what it looks like from from just the betting standpoint, from a head-to-head standpoint, talk about a few surprises that I see in the lines, and also maybe mention what this could indicate for DFS. I think this is a good way to sometimes find pivots in DFS. I think it's a good way to sometimes verify, like, is the chalk that you really like, and so does everybody else. Do the sports books agree? Do the sports bettors that bet head-to-head matchups would tend to be, players with deeper pockets, bigger bankrolls? Do they agree? Because if it's chalk that, you find it hard to see that they're blowing out their matchups or that people are really betting that line, sometimes that may be a good chalk to get rid of. And I think Adam Hadwin may be a possible candidate for that. So let's get into it. While you're here, feel free to toss out some questions, some lines in the chat if you're watching live. If you're not watching live, and I've already done this, please give me a comment. Comment what you like about this video, what you don't like. Comment something, okay? Comment if you like my hat, because I thought this was probably the best looking hat in Augusta National this week for the Masters. All right, so Adam Hadwin, here we go. I've found 3 lines on Adam Hadwin. One against Harold Varner on DraftKings, one against Maverick McNeely on FanDuel, and one against Webb Simpson on Unibet. That is as of Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. when I'm recording this, or I'm broadcasting this. What's interesting is he is not a favorite in any of them. That's right. Adam Hadwin is not a favorite in any of these lines, despite being quite the popular play in DFS. He against Harold Varner on DraftKings, they're both minus 110. So coin toss there. Take your pick. Against Maverick McNeely on FanDuel, Mav is minus 118. Adam Hadwin is minus 108. That line is open there. It's still there right now. And against Webb Simpson on Unibet, he is actually plus 100 to Webb Simpson's minus 133. Now, again, talking about Hadwin, I do see him being rather chalky in DFS. Maybe I'm wrong. He's $7,600 on DraftKings. The Webb Simpson line makes a little sense when you consider the price, when you consider Webb's 8,800 on DraftKings, right? You would think that the lines would fall in place there to line up with DraftKings lines, sportsbook head-to-head lines, etc. But he's $1,200 more expensive. He is the favorite. Maybe they're weighing course history really heavily. Webb's obviously got an amazing record around Harbour Town. Adam Hadwin, surprisingly not a great record at Harbour Town. It does seem like a golf course that could suit him really, really well, and he is playing extremely hot right now. But it's interesting to see that so far the lines have opened and remain not in Adam Hadwin's favor against HV3, Mav McNeely, and Webb Simpson. The Webb Simpson line is tempting to me because if I bet matchups, I tend to like to find some plus money guys that I really like. And so, the plus 100 number, if I were going to bet a matchup, I kind of like it. I'm going to believe in the hot form from Hadwin, believe in, in how he shows up here to Harbour Town this week. And I'm still somewhat hesitant on Webb for the moment, even though he's obviously played well the last couple of weeks. But I thought that was a very interesting line between Adam Hadwin and Webb Simpson. All right, now I want to talk about another name that I think is going to be rather chalky, and I love this guy. And this is a name I wanted to look at to see, like, am I right here? Is this chalk that maybe I should consider eating instead of fading in DFS? Are there matchups that I'd be interested in betting on? Do the outright numbers make sense? And it's Russell Henley. All right, I'm a big fan of Russell Henley. He was 40-1 last night on FanDuel when we recorded our show. I'm not sure exactly where he is now. If you're watching in the chat, maybe you can put that in there in terms of an outright number. But he's got 3 matchups as well. The first one is against Corey Connors on DraftKings. They are both minus 110. And in DraftKings DFS, Corey Connors is $700 more expensive. So, right away, you saw the prices come out on DraftKings, and you just felt like Henley at $9,000 was a pretty good value. I like Corey Connors too. It's not that I don't like Corey Connors, but for $700 less, savings in DraftKings, opens as a coin flip to Corey Connors, at least on DraftKings. It's interesting. The next matchup is pretty overwhelming in Henley's favor, and it's against our favorite Siwoo Kim. Siwoo Kim is $8,400, so $600 less on DraftKings than Russell Henley at $9,000. But Siwoo is a plus 112 dog on FanDuel to Henley at minus 142. Pretty overwhelming there. And this is despite Siwoo Kim. He almost, or I think he did make a playoff in 2018. I can't remember who he who he was in the playoff with, but he made a playoff in 2018, almost winning, almost taking down Harbour Town. He tends to do well on Pete Dye designs. You know, I like Siwoo because I always like Siwoo. He did play well on the weekend at Augusta. He had a great second round after kind of I think a sloppy start at Augusta to make the cut, and then played good on the weekend. You know, I think this is the logical favorite here with Henley. I do think this number is too big on Russell Henley. I think this matchup should be closer, so it's a little tempting for me to take the Siwoo money at plus 112. But I mean, I do think Henley should be the favorite. I just don't think the gap should be this wide. The final matchup is a guy that is Henley versus a guy me and Pat got into a little bit of an argument about yesterday, and it's Billy Horschel at minus 110 and Russell Henley slight favorite at minus 120. And Horschel, not a bad record here either. Fifth in 2018, 25th last year. Horschel comes in on DraftKings at 8,700, so just behind Henley there at 9,000. So, I mean, really, from a course history standpoint, they're kind of both the same. Definitely uh, playing, both of them playing well. I believe both of them are playing well. Pat argue with me about that, but I believe they're both playing well. Billy Horschel's odds, what are his odds at the moment? Okay, Brian Farmer, thank you for helping me out there. Henley down to 29-1. I knew he would be. I mean, we knew that he was going to drop from, what was he, 40-1 on FanDuel, and he was like 22-1 on DraftKings. You just knew that was coming because that was clearly a mispriced option there. I think Henley does belong in that 20 to 30 range. So I hope you scooped him at 40-1. But let's look at Billy Horschel right now. Horschel's longest odds are on FanDuel at 42-1. He's 40-1 on PointsBet, 40-1 on MGM, 35-1 on DraftKings. And Henley looks to be shorter than Horschel everywhere else on every other book. So it makes sense that he'd be a slight favorite here for sure. But I like both these guys. I really do. But I will say this though. This is interesting from a DraftKings perspective. You know, I think that Horschel could present possibly some ownership, value there at 8,700. Maybe people aren't going to really play Billy Ho. Maybe they're like Pat. They don't really think Billy Ho's hitting it that well. I think he is. He hit it well. His irons went well at Augusta based on the data. Okay. Pat says with his eyeballs, he didn't see it, but I saw it on the data. The Data Golf procured the strokes gained data from Augusta National. The irons have been pretty good for Billy Ho, and that's what's key here at Harbour Town. All right. I got two more big names I want to talk about. Then I want to pay attention to a couple individual lines that are catching my eye. Shane Lowry is the next one I want to look at. He's also got three matchups on Unibet, FanDuel, and DraftKings up right now. Currently, he is a minus 120 to minus 110 favorite over Corey Connors. These are two bigger names in the DFS range in terms of price tag. Shane Lowry at 9,800, Corey Connors at 9,700. They're side by side, both with good finishes here at Harbour Town, both in outstanding form, both check a lot of boxes. So not surprising, a pretty close line, Lowry being a slight favorite. He is a big favorite over Webb Simpson, priced at 8,800 on DraftKings. So $1,000 more you got to pay for Shane Lowry than you do Webb. He's minus 142 versus Webb at plus 112 on FanDuel. And I think that one, to me, obviously I'm kind of bearish on Webb. I think that one makes sense, right? I love Shane Lowry here. I think he's just right on the precipice of getting a win. He's been close the last couple months. And so I feel I wouldn't take that bet at this point at minus 142 because I think that I don't bet matchups at minus 142, but I like it. I definitely think that I agree with the line. I do agree with the line on FanDuel. But here's an interesting one. So a slight favorite to Corey Connors, big favorite against Webb Simpson. But here's the one that really caught my eye. He is a toss-up on DraftKings to Dustin Johnson. Shane Lowry, 9,800 on DraftKings and DFS. DJ 10.5. So you're paying $700 more. But they are basically a coin flip here on DraftKings, opening both at minus 110, which I think is very fascinating because I talked about this last night on the show. Like, I kind of like fading the 10K range in some builds and in a lot of lineup builds on for DFS. And I think you can get as much. There's some really solid names in this 9K range, including Lowry, including Connors, including Henley, that I think the way these guys are playing right now in terms of recent incoming form is very enticing compared to some, DJ's definitely flashing form. He turned it up at the WGC match play, turned it up at Augusta. I get it. Played well at the Players. Had that really low round, I think, on Sunday. So he's flashing form for sure. But that's an interesting line to me that Shane Lowry would be right there. All right. Speaking of DJ, I want to keep working off of DJ. So there's the Shane Lowry line, okay? And then two surprising lines here. All right. I'm going to save the most surprising one for last. On Unibet, DJ is a -110 to -120 dog against Matthew Fitzpatrick. Now, I also love Matthew Fitzpatrick. He's more of that value in that 9K that I absolutely love. Fitzy's been playing outstanding. He's arguably got as good a record here as DJ does. You would think seemingly his game would fit Harbour Town very, very well. I think it does. You're saving $1,000 on DraftKings here. Now, I think on DraftKings and DFS, I'm sure Fitzpatrick probably comes in. I would think a little more popular than DJ. Maybe not. Maybe a bunch of people are going to listen to Pat last night. I don't know. But I thought that was an interesting line that DJ is actually a slight dog and opened as a slight dog on Unibet to Matthew Fitzpatrick. But I got this line that is really interesting because I didn't think that there would be as much as wide of a gap here with these two guys. On FanDuel, DJ and Patrick Cantley both opened at -112. Okay? They both opened at -112. Very quickly, it seems that some big money came in on Patrick Cantley because basically the same day that the line dropped, it went from -112 to now Cantley being a massive favorite, -142 to DJ's +112. That is a big favorite for two studs up top. And clearly the books are trying to draw in some money on DJ. At least that's what it seems. Now, is this some head-to-head market manipulation by some big shots that want to get a better number on DJ and then pound that? Could be that they're kind of steaming Cantley early to get that line, and then they're going to pound DJ. That's definitely a tactic. But I thought it was very interesting. Obviously, Patrick Cantley has a tremendous, had a tremendous run here in 2017, 18, and 19, where he finished no worse than 7th. He did miss the cut last year in 2021. Definitely underwhelmed a lot of people at Augusta. Patrick Cantley did. You would think he would play a little better. He hasn't quite shown up since really the Phoenix. Missed the cut at the Players. He was on the bad side of the draw. Had a really bad swing on, I think, his second round on Saturday at 17 that cost him the tournament. Obviously, he's an incredible player. And even in 2022 at the Century, 4th, 9th at the Amex, 4th at Pebble, 2nd at Waste Management. So like a run of 4 straight top 10s there to open up 2022 to continue the momentum that he had to end the season last year. At -142 is very interesting because I think, I don't know. I haven't looked at any ownership projections. You guys maybe could tell me in the chat. I haven't looked at any ownership projections, so I don't know how popular Cantley is looking to be right now. But if DJ is going to be more popular, this is a very interesting line because there's some big money that's been thrown down on Patrick Cantley early on FanDuel. All right. A couple things here, just footnotes. Justin Thomas is a favorite everywhere. I wanted to see where JT is. He's a favorite everywhere against Cam Smith and Colin Morikawa. Those are the two matchups that he's got there. He's a pretty decent favorite over those guys, which I thought was, it's expected, right? He's the shortest number outright. But I don't know, man. If I could, there's a plus money matchup. There's a Morikawa +105 to JT -130 on DraftKings, and that is tempting to me. And I don't typically love betting head-to-head matchups with some of the top-tier guys. I think they're harder to really find an edge against the books. A very efficient market, very efficient at setting these lines. I feel like sometimes maybe you can find a little more of an edge in the mid-range to lower-tier guys, lower-tier players. But a plus money matchup on Colin Morikawa versus JT right now, I'm interested in. Not because JT's playing bad. He's not. He's playing great. I love JT. But I said it last night on the show, he doesn't feel like a closer right now. He just doesn't feel like he's going to close the door. And I think Morikawa, feels like he's more of that guy. So that's an interesting line. Another interesting line to pay attention to is Alex Noren opened as a slight dog on FanDuel to Kevin Kisner. Okay. That line has flipped. We talked about, me and Pat talked about Kevin Kisner extensively last night, right? We both like Alex Noren. But we talked about Kiz extensively. On FanDuel, that line has flipped. Somebody or a couple people, excuse me. That makes a baker's dozen. Put in the comments what that references. Oh God, what was I saying? Oh yeah, we weren't really crazy about Kiz, and the line is flipped. So now you got Alex Noren as a favorite on FanDuel over Kiz. Again, I must, I do think Alex Noren is going to be pretty popular. Okay, he's going to be popular in DFS. But it just kinda confirms how good I think Noren, is looking. He's at 8,300 on DraftKings. Kisner's at 8,100 on DraftKings. So they're pretty much in that same level, same tier, but interesting to see that line flip. All right, 2 more lines that I thought were interesting. The first one is Kevin Na at +102 versus Joaquin Neiman at -126 on FanDuel. I say that because we also talked about both these guys last night, but Pat really likes Kevin Na. I like Kevin Na this week. I do. And I think this is a line that I would bet. And I think I would take the Kevin Na side here, even though I like both players. I mentioned I like plus money matchups. I'm not rich enough yet to have a massive, unit on me to just sling it around betting, minus money favorites and stuff. I'd rather have the plus money matchups from mid-tier to lower tier guys. Kevin Na plus 102 over Neiman at -126. I think I'm interested. I think I'll take it. I mean, Kevin Na here obviously has an amazing record. Let's just look at it. Let's look at his history at Harbour Town, and not to mention that he's also just dangerous to win at any point. Gain strokes putting, gain strokes around the green, gain strokes with his irons, of course. And I mentioned this. He was the number 1 in strokes gained approach at Augusta National based on Data Golf strokes gained rankings. First place finisher in strokes gained approach over 2 strokes gained at the Heritage. He's played the Heritage a lot. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. He's played the Heritage 14 times. He's missed the cut 4 times, including last year in 2021. But he has an 11th, a 4th, a 17th, a 9th, an 8th, a 4th, and another 10th. That's his performance at the RBC Heritage. That's pretty freaking good. Joaquin Neiman, on the other hand, has only played here once, and it was in 2020, and it was a different golf course in 2020. It was in June. It was coming off the COVID stuff. It didn't have the overseed probably that it has now. Bermuda is a surface that historically he has lost strokes on, and he's playing well. Don't get me wrong, but I think this is an interesting line, and one I would take at +102 over Joaquin Neiman at -126. I like that line. The final line that I want to talk about that I'm interested in taking is Webb Simpson -120 and Mav Mcneely at +100 on DraftKings. We know I love Mav. I like that plus money deal. I like the hot form coming in from Maverick McNeely. I guess it's me putting a little more in the form than the course history. I'm definitely looking at course history, but I like the form angle a little more, and I love the way Mav's playing. And I feel like the kid's knocking on the door. I'm not still fully convinced Webb is back to 100%. He's obviously good enough to be playing well. He played well at Augusta, as I already mentioned. But I like the plus money mid-range matchup of Mav McNeely at +100 over Webb Simpson at -120. Yo, that's it for me. DB head-to-head matchups. I got a heavy petting email to write. That's about to come out. You guys are going to want to make sure you check that out. If you've not already subscribed to it, you should. Okay, you can get the chalk bomb and the heavy petting email. Heavy petting on Tuesday, chalk bomb on Wednesday. Get all the stuff you need. I got to go do that. I got to write the covers article, the exclusive covers article with some more head-to-head, matchup analysis, matchups we like, and some top 20s, maybe a couple props. I'm going to do that, knock it out. Hey, give me a like, give me a subscribe, thumbs up, comment, all that good stuff. I'd appreciate it. It helps us out. Let's have a great week. Bend over your bookie. See ya.